Okay. What we'll do is we'll learn Kufyat Zayin, Amud Beis and Kufyat Ches, Amud Aleph. We'll leave the Kufyat Ches for tomorrow, and Kufyat Tes we'll finish at the Siyum a little bit. Finish at the Siyum, which should be tomorrow night. Or maybe we'll finish it all tomorrow and just have the Siyum tomorrow night, Thursday night at the Kaila. Okay. So we thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. We're learning, we should have the base of English immediately. We're learning Lili Nishmas to have a golden bus bar in Yemen. And Nathaniel Ben Benzian. Also for Shleima for Ben Sarah and Gedalia Getzel Eliezer Ben Feget Zipara.
Feget Zipara.
Okay.
Did you hear?
I got it.
Okay, sorry.
It's better. I wasn't sure if it was Zipara Fega or Feget Zipara. Because a lot of times the Yiddish translations, for the name, they go usually
the Hebrew then, yeah. Okay.
Okay. Like Yitzchak Isaac. Sorry? See him tomorrow night. Okay, so the Mishnah starts like this. We're on the bottom of Kufyat Zayin Amud Aleph, bottom of 117. It says Abayis Valiyah Shel Shnaim Shenaflo. This is like, all the jokes start the same way. 3 people went into a bar. So these Mishnayos, they all start the same way. There was a house in an attic that belonged to in a second story of 2 people that fell down. Amar Bal Aliyah LeBal Abayis Livnes. So the Baal Ha'aliyah, the guy in the second floor, you see, this is what's discouraging people from buying condominiums. It's like, what do they really own? They just own airspace. So here, the house collapsed. The Baal Aliyah tells the guy from the second floor, tells the guy on the bottom, can you build up? Because I want to put my thing up there. I want to get my house back in its airspace. So Behuina writes to live in this. He says, no, actually, I'm not building. I'm finished. It was a nice while it lasted. So, the person from the second story has the rights to build up the bottom floor, live in it as if it's his own, until the person is willing to pay for the expenses of building, and then he'll take those expenses and he'll build his. So basically, becomes a worker, a construction worker for the guy on the bottom. He'll take his expenses and then he'll move he'll build his one on the top. But he has the rights to live in the bottom because the person was supposed to build it up and he didn't. So he says, well, I guess my house is now on the floor. Yeah. I was by the Shula Bell Harbor one sukkah, maybe like 30 years ago, when the sukkah collapsed. There was the whole sukkah. It was a massive sukkah. There was a wind, lifted it up to the ground, and it collapsed. It was in the newspaper. But there was one guy. There was one guy that was inside. There was an old man, Mr. Flyer. He was setting up the. Anyway, they joked afterwards that Mr. Flyer. So the sukkah fell down. He's standing there. So he says, "What am I doing on the roof?" Okay. So Rabbi Yehuda, this is the Tanakama. Rabbi Yehuda says, there's a problem here. Rashi puts it as 2 problems. Rashi says that, look what's happening. I have a person that's living in someone else's house. I have the Baal Aliyah, the person on the second floor, is living in the person on the bottom, his house. Now, until the person pays, it's not his house. But once he pays for the expenses retroactively, that's his house. That's retroactive to his house because that's his location. And now this fellow lived after he paid. Well, he lived before he paid, but after he pays, the living that he did before he paid in this person's house was what is it? Zenena. He gained the place to live. And this person didn't lose out because he didn't build a house anyway. So he wasn't living there anyway. But we had a discussion before in Baba Kama if Zenena V'Zalei is Chayev or Pater. And we said Pater, but Rabbi Yehuda would be of the opinion that it's Chayev. That's how Rashi puts it over here. That Rabbi Yehuda's view is that the guy's living in his house and he's not paying. Okay. Second problem Rashi throws in here is that this fellow is laying out money for the owner, for the owner of the lower floor. And he's going to get paid back. He's going to get paid back, and he's also going to live in the house. 1 second. He's getting paid back for laying out the construction money, for doing the work. And then he's going to live in it, so he's getting interest. He's living in it. The living in it is interest.
Yeah, that was big. He charge extra for like all the work, all the headaches of construction.
Yeah, whatever the expenses are, he's gonna charge him.
But you have to charge something to work.
Probably that's considered an expense. The work. He's asking if it's only the material or is it also the labor? It's probably both. Whatever the expenses are. Yeah, the construction cost. So what do you do instead? According to Rabbi Yehuda, what could he do? What could he do to get his house back? His house is like in the air. He can't just build his house up there. He's got to start somewhere, right? So he has to start on the bottom. Starts on the bottom, then he lives there. So then he's not supposed to be living there. It's ribis, and it's also he's going to have to pay rent. Well, Rabbi Yehuda's response to this is Alabala aliyah bainas abayas ves aliyah. Mekaras aliyah v'yesh babayas ad shitin layas yitziyosef. I need that Makaras aliyah in there.
It just seems like the first floor owner has to build his quarters, I guess, before the second.
That's how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be that the first guy builds first, and then the second guy will build on top. But the first guy doesn't want to build. No, he says it was a nice house, but I'm not interested anymore.
I guess
I'm gonna live by my in-laws. It's cheaper.
So he'll live in the first.
That's what's going on. He says that so the Tanakama says that the guy from the second floor will build the lower floor. Rabbi Yehuda says no, you can't do that because if the guy shows up, he says, no, I want to pay for it. Then he'll pay for.
He shows up like next year.
Yeah, he'll show up and pay for the expenses.
Then he'll build on top of him.
Yeah, so then he'll build on top, which according to the Tanakama is perfectly fine. But Rabbi Yehuda throws in a problem. He says that if he's going to build on top, if he's going to live there after the person pays, then retroactively the whole house becomes his. He lived there for free. He should really have to pay him rent. And when he does pay him rent, not when he does pay rent. If he doesn't pay him rent, then that's going to be interest because he laid out money for the owner of the bottom floor, and he's getting paid back that money, and he's living there. So there's a problem here. Yeah. Anyway.
If he has to pay him rent, the owner of the bottom one could just wait till, I don't know, 5 years that the amount of rent is what construction is, and then just get the house for free.
Yeah, that's what, according to Rabbi Yehuda, that's what's going to come out. So Rabbi Yehuda has to come up with a solution for the person for the top floor. And the solution is like this. The solution is, he says, don't just build the bottom floor. Build the bottom floor and the top floor. Okay. Now you can live in the bottom floor until the person pays the rent. You don't let them in. You don't tell them the code to the gate. And so why now is this any better? You should have to pay him rent if you're living in the bottom floor. The answer is because Zen Nana V'Zelei Chaser, I'm not Nana. It's not like I needed this house. I have another house. I'm just not. My main point is I'm not letting you in. But I'm not nene because I have another house. I have the upstairs house. Nene means a benefit. When one person benefits, another person doesn't lose. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you have to pay. But that's only if he's benefiting. Here he's not benefiting because he has the second story house that he could live in. Doesn't need this house.
He's still benefiting because it
Oh,
wasn't for
very
the bottom.
good. Very good. Yeah, still benefiting because of the commentaries discuss that.
If it wasn't for the bottom, there would be no
Right.
top.
No, he's benefiting because they're benefiting that living there because he doesn't have to walk up the steps.
Oh,
That's a benefit. Yeah.
Who does that he builds both and he still lives at the bottom?
He still lives on the bottom.
So why would he just not build both and live on top?
You can't build only the top.
No, but I'm saying he builds both.
Oh, and live on top.
Yeah, instead of living at the bottom.
Right. He could do that also. But his point is that he's able to live in the bottom. But the point of living in the bottom is he doesn't let the owner back in until he pays the. That's his. Okay. I'm Rabbi Yochanan. Yeah, it's investing here.
Build two houses and live in it.
Can I say bracha? No. I'm Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says, "B'shleishim mekaymes shana lanu Rabbi Yehuda asal adam she'ena mimam chaveira." Rabbi Yochanan says that there's three sources where Rabbi Yehuda says that you can't have benefit from someone else's money. Chadaha. One of them is what we just learned, is that he doesn't want this person living in the bottom floor, which is the other person's house. Then the other person's going to pay retroactively. It's going to become his house. It's going to become the original owner's house, and the guy from the top floor lived there. Idach. What's another one? Chadaha. This is what we taught in our Mishnah. Idach. What's the next one? Idach mahi. Tanan. It was taught in the Mishnah. Mishnah that we've had at the end of Baba Kama. Someone gives wool to a dyer, tells him dye it red. The craftsman here that's dyeing, he dyes it black. He tells him dye it black, and instead he dyes it red. Maybe he's colorblind or something, or maybe just doesn't care. Reb Meir says that the person that the craftsman here acquires the wool, so he just pays him for raw material.
Because he made a change, right?
We learned because he made a change. Ramir says that the shinoi that he does, the change that he makes in it, acquires it, and he gets the raw material. Now, Rabbi Yehuda has a problem with this. The way we're posing it here is that the problem is that this person went to the store and got you the raw material and brought it, and you just go and pay for it like that without giving him any of his expenses and going to the store and buying it and all of that. You just get the raw material, and then you keep the improvement. Rabbi Yehuda says different. He says, you got to give the wool back to the original owner. You can't just get that wool. The guy goes to the store, he schleps to wherever to get this fancy wool, Egyptian cotton, or I don't know, and then you just take it and pay for it, just like that without that. So no, the guy that owns the wool gets the wool back. What about the work that you did for it? So then it's yadi ala tachtaina, you get paid the lesser amount. How does that work? It says if the improvements are more than the expenses and nice yitzia, then you only give them the expenses, which is less than the increase of value. It might tell you and if the expenses are more than the improvements, then nice shvach, then you just pay him for the improvements. He says, look, you didn't do that much for me, so I'm just giving you these improvements. I'm not paying you for all the expenses. Well, okay, so what we see over here is that we have another point where Rabbi Yehuda doesn't allow the craftsman to benefit from the labor from the work of the owner that he had to go and get the wool. He doesn't want him to benefit from that, so he makes him give the wool back to the owner of the wool.
It's a different situation. Here, the craftsman messed up, and the other one, the guy from the lower floor.
You see, very good. Very good. The Gemara is going to say that. Very good. V'idach, another point. Yeah, another, the third one. Mahi, what's the third one? The Tanan, it was taught in the Mishnah. Misha para mitzvah. You're gonna have to tell me the comments on this in the notes. Someone that pays back the following in what's coming up. Someone that pays back a partial debt. He has a debt. He borrowed money. He borrowed $1,000 and he paid back 500. So the original document that says that the promissory note that says that he owes $1,000. So you don't want that to stay in the hands of the lender because he may collect it against. What they do is they put it in someone else's hands and they wait for him to pay the next 500. And then when he pays that, then they give the document to the borrowers.
It's a third party?
Give it to a third party. Give it to a third party to hold until it's finished paying up. So the hishlish story, they give the document to a third party. And now the borrower tells to the third party, if I pay it back at a certain point, if I don't pay it back, if I don't pay it back by January 1st, so 10 lay starter, you can give the lender back the document and let him collect the whole thing again. Yeah, it's smachta. Very good. I was going to say that as well. Hill, you're on the ball today. And here, I thought you were going to ask, isn't this interest? It sounds like it sounds like a case of interest because he's giving an extra. So what the Gemara is going to say, not the Gemara is going to say, the commentators here mentioned this, that for some reason it's not interest because he's saying that the part that I paid back is just going to be a gift. If it takes me so long to pay back, then that first payment's just a gift. Right, gifts aren't allowed either. I don't know. I don't have a better answer. But I'm sure the commentators there say, let me see what's our point here. He gives man b'leinas, and what happens if the time comes and he doesn't pay it back? So now we have a machlaikas. Rabbi Yossi says, okay, you give the document back to the lender and let him collect the full amount. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, we don't do that. Now, I guess what the Gemara is trying to bring out is that Rabbi Yehuda says that we don't say that we allow the lender to benefit from the borrower just for free to get this extra money. We don't allow him to do that. Like we said before, we don't allow someone to get extra money. It's a little like simple. Like, that's really what he's saying.
Says that it's okay, although this gift is pretty valid. The rabbis decreed that since it was not given wholeheartedly, the lender may not benefit.
Since the gift, although the gift is legally valid, but because it wasn't given wholeheartedly, so that the lender may not benefit. That's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, according to the way the Rabbi Yochanan is presenting it. The Gemara asks questions on all of these cases. The Gemara says, 1 second. You're putting this together. You're trying to find like a common denominator in these cases of Rabbi Yehuda. Maybe there is no common denominator. Maybe each case has its own reason and it has nothing to do with one another.
Isn't the common denominator getting benefit from a person without paying for it?
Yeah, that's the way Rabbi Yochanan is presenting it. And the Gemara is going to ask now that it's not necessarily what's happening. We're going to go through each case. We're going to say that each one has its own reason. Yeah. Maybe the reason why Rabbi Yehuda said that the reason why we don't want you to live in that house without paying is not because we don't want you to get benefit from the house and without paying. That's not the reason. The reason why you have to pay is it's not. You see, we were viewing it as zenana v'zelechase. Zeh, first guy, he's having benefit because he's living in a house well, for free, but he's living in someone else's house. He built it, but he's living in someone after the guy pays for it. It's considered his house retroactively. He's nana. He doesn't have anywhere else to live, so that's clearly a benefit. And this guy didn't build his house, build it anyway. He's not losing out because there was no house there. If he had a house that he could have made rent off, so then we would say that he's losing out if it was a house that was rentable. But there was no house there. So he's like chaser, he's not losing out. So the Gemara is saying maybe that's not really what's happening here. Maybe, although it's not his house while he's living there, but after when he pays for it, retroactively it becomes his house. So, but the walls get dark, it's considered a used house. It's not a brand new house. Right? It's already lived in. So the walls are dark. So maybe that's why he has to pay. It's not zenen of loy chaser, zenen of chaser. He's losing because the person's living there. So he has to pay for that wear and tear, or the darkening of the walls. Inami. And also, we can say that with the second case, we said over there, Rabbi Yehuda says, no, we don't let him get the benefit of keeping the wool that he just worked on, and the other guy schlepped to the store to get it. Say because that's Mishum the Kamashana, because he changed from the instructions. Utanan or Ditanan, anyone that changes from the instructions always gets the lower hand. There's nothing to do with getting benefit from someone else. And then the third case, Misha Bar Nami Havi Asmachta. The reason why Rabbi Yehuda says that he doesn't acquire it, that we don't give the document back to the lender to collect the entire debt. That's because it's an asmachta. He was relying on the fact that wouldn't happen, that he would be able to pay it back earlier. And we know that Rabbi Yehuda holds asmachta lekani. That when it comes to someone makes a gamble like that, sort of bet. Rabbi Yehuda says that like honey, it's machlekes Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda another place. Okay, so we have questions on how Rabbi Yochanan says that these all three are the same logic when we have each one could be a different logic. Amar Ravacha bar Adam Shmei Deula. Rabbi Yochanan could maybe respond. He can say, "Well, why do you need a different logic for each one? You just use wouldn't one answer be better than three different answers?" I mean, that's the way we like to do it today. We like to answer three questions with one answer. And we say, oh, that's a proof that that's the correct answer. Because it answers more than one question. That's only because it's easier to explain, because you get one answer. But that doesn't mean that it's necessarily so. Right? Yeah. Ravacha Barada Mishmedula. Ravacha Barada says the name of Bula. Tachtana Bolashanis. Okay, this is going to be a classic discussion, a classic argument between a landlord and a tenant or other things, and the guy is now rebuilding, or the two owners. The guy's now rebuilding his lower floor. He says, now that I'm rebuilding it, I want to do it differently. Make it a little higher. I'm going to make it a little wider. I'm going to make it fancier, more windows, more this. And the guy on the top says, no. This you got to keep it the same way that you had it, because I'm not changing my house. So it's like this. Bigvil Shaimanai. Let's say the wall used to be a wall that was 5 tvachim thick. And the guy decides on the bottom, he says, I want to make it thicker, my bottom wall. I'm going to make it 6 tvachim. So it's much better. So then Shaimanai, we listen to him. It's going to be more thick. That's the size of these stones. This gvil is these big stones. Begazis, let's say it's going to be only the 5 tvachim, and it was originally 6 tvachim. So then ain't Shaimanai, then we don't listen to him, because he's making the stones less wide. Now the person on top isn't going to have the same strength. It's going to be a little bit weaker. The gvil are the stones that are smooth on the sides. And the gazis are the stones that are smooth, and the gvil are the larger stones that aren't smoothed off. They protrude more, larger. We'll have that in Baba Basra on Friday. Bekvisin, if he decides he's going to use half bricks, the way they would use half bricks is that they would use 2 half bricks. Each brick was 3 tvachim. They would divide the brick in half. 1.5, 1.5, and then they would put a tefach on the center of plaster or something. Is that how it would work? Yeah. So it'd be actually 4 tvachim in total. So if he's going to do that, that's be accepted because that's much wider than it was before. Before it was only bricks. But Levanim, if he says, no, I'm just going to use a whole brick, which doesn't give you that extra tefach space because it's just use one whole brick. It's 3 tvachim. Ain't shaimalai because he's diminishing from the amount that it used to be.
So the half brick is wider because of the mortar?
Because 2 half bricks, because of the mortar, ends
Because
up
of the
being
mortar,
wider.
it ends up being wider. Okay.
Yeah.
Wouldn't the whole bricks be strong?
We say we think that it's going to be stronger with the half bricks. It's going to be wider. Ba'arazim, if he wants to use cedar wood, which is a stronger wood than sycamore wood, then shaimanai, we allow him to do that. Any improvements are going to be accepted. Shikamim, I don't know how to pronounce that, but the sycamore trees ain't shaimanai. We don't do that because that's not as strong as the wood isn't as strong.
You can't have the stronger materials top, right?
But that's coming up soon. That's you'll see in a moment. Let's say he says, I don't want to have all the windows that I used to have. I'm going to have less windows. So Shaimanai, then, okay, very good. That's going to be excellent for the upper floor. If he says, no, I want to have more windows. I want to like a big, to get a big breeze over here. In Shaimanai, we don't listen to him because when the guy piles up his second story, it's going to put too much pressure on that. Though could collapse. Like Bia, if he says, I want it to get a foot higher, in Shaimanai, we don't listen to him. But if he says, I'm going to make it a foot lower, then Shaimanai, then we do listen to him. Okay, that was all the bottom person. What about if the top person wants to make changes? He doesn't have to tell anything to the bottom guy, but he's not going to see it, right? But nevertheless, the halacha is Elyon Shabbalashanais. Not that he doesn't have to, he does have to, but maybe he could like minor things he's not going to tell him about. But if he's going to make major changes, he's going to have to discuss this. Elyon Shabbalashanais, the guy on the top is going to have is that wants to make changes because of Shaimanai. If he wants to make his wall less strong, then we listen to him because the weight is going to be less. If he says, I want to use stones that are only 5 tvachim instead of 6 tvachim, we listen to him. But Gvil, if he wants to make them larger stones, then ain't Shaimalai, we don't listen to him. But Kvisim, if there are if the wider bricks, because it's 2 halves plus the mortar, ain't Shaimalai, we don't listen to him. The Levanim, if it's only 3 tvachim bricks, then Shaimalai, we trust him. We listen to him. Barazim, if he wants to use the heavier wood, ain't Shaimanai, we don't let him use that. Shikma, if he wants to use the sycamore wood, Shaimanai, we allow him to do that. L'Rabbi Spechalainas, if he wants to make more airspace, a Florida room, then which Shaimanai, we listen to him, we let him do that. L'Mayat Bechalainas, if he wants to make it solid when it used to be open, then ain't Shaimanai, we don't listen to him. Like Bia, if he wants to make the ceiling higher, ain't Shaimalai, we don't listen to him. Lamayat, if he wants to make it lower than Shaimalai, then we listen to him. Do we know what happened in the Surfside Tower? Why it collapsed? Was it it wasn't the weight or something?
The seawater had salt in it and it gave way to the rebar inside.
They also have leakage,
But eats away at the
foundation.
Okay. According to what we're learning here, there's too much weight on the too much weight on the top. There has to be a certain amount that's allowed or whatever. So if they adjust that could cause problems for the lower floors, and then it could collapse. I don't have no idea what happened over there. Just what the Gemara is concerned about is that if you make adjustments to the weight on the top, that could weaken the bottom. Let's say they both don't have money to build up. And so what they're going to do is they're going to sell the property. So the guy on the top, he only had airspace. How much value does he have? How much ownership of the property does he have when he? Yeah, this is a good question. It's a good question. This is a really good question. Those people that own the Surfside Towers, do they own any of the land?
Condos, part of like the common areas is divided upon.
But now all they have is a property, no building left, just a property. Any of the condominium owners that weren't there or whatever or inheritors, they own the land.
The insurance, I would say, has to pay them for the value of the condo.
But they want the land.
They own it in common. The same way that they own the pool and the gym facilities.
So they have a percentage. Each one of them has a percentage of it. Does the bottom floor, the people that lived on the bottom, if there was anyone there, own more than the upper floors? Oh, okay. So here, take a look at this. Tanya was taught in a brisa. Reb Nosson Eimer tachta neitel shnei chalakim ve'elyon shalish. The Reb Nosson says that the bottom gets 2/3 and the upper person gets 1/3 of it. Acherim is sometimes Reb Meir if it's in a Mishnah. If it's in a brisa, it's not so clear. Acherim say tachta neitel shleisha chalakim. The lower person takes 3/4. Ve'elyon neitel revia, and the upper person takes 1/4. So it's a question of if he gets 1/3 or 1/4. And Amar Rabba says, Reb Nosson biyadcha. You should accept Reb Nosson's view. Why? The dainahu, because Reb Nosson was a dayan, and he gets to the bottom of the logic of the law. Why? Because kosavar kama mafsid aliyah b'bayis. How much is the damage of the upper floor causing to the lower floor? How much weight is there from the upper floor that's diminishing the value of the lower floor? In other words, if this whole house would have been 1 story, they wouldn't have the second story on it. It would have lasted 1/3 more. The upper story diminishes it by 1/3.
Some apply now because you have stronger foundations.
But even if you have stronger buildings, but when you build it the same way, if you would build it 1 story, it would last longer than if you build it 2 story. Or if you need to add a second story, how much more stronger do you need to make it to get the second story on top? No, but look, let's say I have a 1-story house. Let's say I want to put up a second story. So how much stronger do I have to make the bottom story to be able to get the second story on top?
You have to totally
I'd have to redo the whole thing, but according to this, it says 1/3 to make it 1/3 stronger. That's okay. Tilsa, it's 1/3. Hilka chesle tilsa. That's why the owner of the upper floor really owns 1/3 of the lower story. Yeah, that's how it's explained there.
If it was 2, it'd be worth more because it's like a duplex. And usually the condos, the higher up they are, the more it costs.
Because the view, better view.
And also, if you're at the top floor, you won't hear anybody walking on your ceiling.
Well, 1/3, 2/3 is the traditional formula for a pshara.
Tell me again the traditional formula
For pshara. It sounded to me like maybe this is not found in engineering or architecture, but the traditional formula for compromise when you don't know.
The way Rashi puts it, if you take a look at that, Rashi, kama mafsid shlish, kama, you make kiyuma, ima meheres lipal machmas masalia. Kama mafsid probably should be a question mark. Kama mafsid shlish, you make kiyuma. It would have lasted 1/3 longer. That's probably I have to read the rest. Kama mafsid shlish, you make kiyuma. 1/3 of its life expectancy.
I was 2 questions before. So
Right. Okay, the next Mishnah. We were talking before about a house and a second story, but there are other cases where it's the same thing would apply. It says, let's say this is sort of like a cave, where we have inside the cave is an olive press. There. This Gemara showing you a cave there.
Back cave view.
Yeah. So in that cave is the olive press, and on top of the cave, can you see the top of there? Oh, that's the top. Wow. Okay, I thought that was 2 pictures. Well, so that's all. And on the top is a garden. On top of the cave is a garden, and we know what's going to happen. Okay, and it collapses. It's a real mess. Well, in the house that collapsed, it's also a mess. The owner of the garden is allowed to go inside to the collapsed olive press and start planting his garden until the guy of the olive press is going to put up stilts to hold up the roof and set it up so that he can plant on top. If there was a wall and a tree that fell into the public area of Ezekiel and caused damage, they're exempt from paying because they didn't realize, they didn't know that it was weak. It wasn't. It was just came as a total accident that this should happen. Unpreventable circumstances. Let's say naflu. Naslu isman lakat sasil mister sakaisel naflu b'tefasman. Let's say that wasn't the case. Let's say they said you have a weak wall. The inspectors come around. You have a tree that's hanging, that's leaning. Yeah, we give you 30 days to take it down. So and it fell within those 30 days. Potter is exempt because he had 30 days. Every day they came to him, they say, "You're not cutting it." He says, "Yeah, I know. I have another week. I have a lachazman." But if it's after the 30 days, then he's going to be chayav. Then he's going to have to pay because that he was irresponsible. Let's say someone has a wall that's right next to his friend's garden. The wall collapsed. Person from the garden says, "Get rid of your stones. They're right in the middle of my vegetables. Get them out of here." The person says, "No, it's my gift to you. You can keep them. You can keep the stones. Stones have value. They're yours." Well, ain't shaymalay. We don't listen to him. You see this like classic argument. They joke about the guy in Israel that's washing his merpeset, the porch, and so he pours a bucket of water on the porch, and then he uses this squeegee, the thing. He uses it to, there's a guy on the bottom that just gets all the water on his head, and they start arguing. "What are you doing? What are you?" He says, "What? I need to clean my porch. When do you want me to clean?" That's no extra charge. So he says, "Yeah, you can keep the stones." Okay. Let's say the guy says, "Oh, you know what? Okay, I can keep the stones. Okay, good. I'm going to keep the stones." So he piles up the stones. He makes this beautiful thing of the pile of stones, and the owner of the wall now comes to him and says, "Oh, you know what? I want the stones here. This is your expenses for cleaning that up." You can say, "In Shaimalay, it's too late. He gave him the stones. It's too late. You can't now come and take the stones back." If someone hires a worker, he wants him to work to gather straw. And he says, "Tell me schari." After the work, he says, "Pay me." What do you mean I should pay you? Take the straw. You collected all that straw. That's good for you. Take the straw. That'll be your payment. Ain't shayman like. If we don't listen to him, he has to pay him money. We should keep it alive. Let's say the guy says, okay, fine, you want me to take the straw? I'll take the straw. He takes the straw. And then the owner comes back and he says, no, I have money for you. Here, you take the money, I'll take the straw. It's too late. Okay. We learned over here, Nifchas, that it collapsed. We're talking about the cave that had a garden on top that collapsed. So we have a machlekes Rav and Shmuel, just like we had by the house that collapsed. We have the same machlekes. Rav Amar Beruba, when it collapsed, Rav says that when do we say that the guy is allowed to go down and start gardening inside the olive press? That's only if majority of the area on top collapsed, because he can't use it up there. Oh, Shmuel Amar Ba'arba, even if it's 4, it's Arba'ah, has to be. Even if it's 4 tvachim. Rav Amar Beruba, Rav says that it needs to be the majority. Aval Ba'arba, Adam Zeriach, Chetzav Lamata, Chetzav Lamaila. Possible for a person to plant a little bit over here, a little bit over here. Sometimes gardens, they have different places in the garden. You can plant a little on top, a little down below. Shmuel says Ba'arba, that even if it's 4 tvachim, it's the way it's written over here, it's arba without a hey, which means that it's 4 amas. But the Rashash on the side, and the Rashash, which is in the back of the Gemara, but my Gemara they put it on the side. Just this comment, he says that it's supposed to be arba'ah, which means 4 tvachim. Square what? Tvachim. Okay. Oh yeah. Right. No, 4 by 4. Yeah. So Shmuel, that's the way they talk about it. Shmuel says no. Person doesn't want to have a little bit down below and a little bit up on top. He wants to be able to have his garden all looking pretty all in one spot. Now we had this machlekes already before when it came to Abayas Valiyah, the house and attic. It's necessary to have both of these cases. Yashmin and Dira. Dr. Stein is saying that this is the beginning of the Gettysburg Address, 4 square.
It's Chaim on.
No, Chaim's not on.
I can say anything more.
Okay. So now the Gemara is saying, why do Rav and Shmuel have to have this discussion by each of these Mishnayos? If they said it already by the house, the same thing should apply to the garden, or the opposite. It says no, it's necessary to discuss it by both. The Yashmin and the Irif would only say it by the house. That's where Shmuel says. It's not comfortable for a person. It's not common for a person to have a little bit here, a little bit there. He just wants to have his own bedroom. He doesn't want to keep his half his stuff down below, half his stuff up here. He's going to put his Negelwasser, if that's his bedroom, right? Down on the bottom. He doesn't want to live like that. He wants to have all his things in one area. So that's where Shmuel says that you can't do that. But when it comes to planting, I'll be the inshi. It's common for people to plant a little bit here, a little bit there. It depends on on the sunlight and things. People have gardens in different areas. Some is hanging in pots, maybe. Same in Maidalil Rav. Maybe he would agree to Rav that if there's only a collapse of a small area, he would agree that you can't have that claim that you need to build it up. Biat Marbahach, and if it would only say by the garden, Rav, that's where Rav says that 4 tvachim is nothing, and you don't have no claim against him. Aval Baha, but when it would come to the house, the living place, we would say that he would agree to Shmuel, so it's necessary. Nasan we said over here that if they gave him time to cut down the tree or to take down the wall, to demolish the wall, how much time? Kamasman best, and how much time is the best and give? Rabbi Yochanan says typically it's 30 days. Let's do one more piece. Someone that has a wall that was falling down, and that fell into his neighbor's garden, and he tells him, clean up the wall, clean up all the debris. The person says, no, you could keep it, so it's yours. Now, so we say that we don't listen to him. He has to come and clean it up. But if the person accepted on himself, then if the guy says, okay, fine, I'll keep it, so then the other guy wants to come and take it, say that he can't, we don't give it to him. What happens at the end is that if the person says, oh, let me come and pay for it, I want to take my stones. So we say that we don't listen to him. Michlal, this implies that he cleaned it up. After he clears it up, the person comes and says, let me take my stones. We don't listen to him. What's the reason why we don't listen to the original owner of these stones, the owner of the wall? That's because the person already put in all the effort to clear it up. But if he didn't put in the effort to clear it up, then we won't allow the person to change his mind to come and take them. Why not? Let us even forget about him clearing it up. The guy says these are, you can keep the stones, so automatically the stone should be his. That a person's courtyard could acquire. He doesn't have to lift each stone and clear it. My answer is that's only because this person. That's only when do we say that a person's courtyard could acquire? That's if the person had intention to acquire, intention to give it to this other person, then his courtyard could acquire. But over here, he didn't really want to give him the stones. He was just trying to push off the job. He didn't want to do it right now, so he was pushing off the works for a later date. He says you can keep the stones, and then it would turn into an argument, and then this, and I go to best. Okay, I'll get around to it later. But that was just a way of postponing the work. So because of that, he wasn't really giving it to him. That's why it would make a difference if he cleared it up or not. Okay. Guess we'll leave it here. We'll learn tomorrow, and then either tomorrow morning we'll finish or tomorrow night, and then we'll have the same tomorrow night. Okay. Bezras Hashem.
No, what's his name?
Yeah.